Hello, everyone. I'm Ari Povich, and welcome to this special edition of A Current Affair. The Sharon Tate murders. On August 9th, 1969, flower power wilted. The peace and love generation of the 60s got blood on its hands in a big way. Sharon Tate was a star in Hollywood in the late 60s. She was married to producer-director Roman Polanski. They were to have a son already named Paul Richard Polanski. It was never meant to be. 4 members of a sick group called the Manson family invaded the Tate-Polanski household and slaughtered Sharon, her unborn son, and 4 other human beings. The massacre gave Hollywood a cruel, nervous breakdown. In all, the Manson family boasted of 35 murders, and Frank Sinatra, Liz Taylor, and Steve McQueen would be on a Manson murder list. Manson and his family have applied for parole. Doris Tate, Sharon's mother, has launched a campaign to make sure this never happens. She has to cope with a bitter irony. Charles Watson, a leader of Manson's brutal brigade, the man who robbed Sharon and her child of life, has fathered 2 children while in jail. And Susan Atkins, the woman who actually killed Sharon, has had the bizarre comfort of a sex life while in prison.
They are treated and housed better, okay, than our elderly.
And they have sex on top of it.
And they have sex on top of it. And yes, exactly. You know?
There is one person who can tell the world about what happened that night. Her name is Linda Kasabian. She was with that killer crew for 19 years. She has remained silent after giving evidence that locked up the Manson family. This week, our news team of Steve Schwartz, Charles Lockman, and Steve Dunleavy pried open a part of history. Linda Kasabian talks tonight for the first time in 19 years. We'll be back after this with the story of the night. Sharon Tate and 4 others died. Now, part 1 of our special edition, the Sharon Tate murders. Linda Kasabian was at the scene of the crime. She became the state's principal witness. She has been silent for 19 years, until now.
I remember looking at his face, and it was just reminding me of the figure of Christ. And I remember looking up in the sky and realizing that Charlie was definitely the devil. He was not this wonderful man that I was led to believe.
The words of Linda Kasabian, one-time follower of Charles Manson, who tonight breaks a 19-year silence about the bloodbath that lives in infamy. The Mad Dog Massacre that chilled a nation.
Sadie came running out of the house, and she said something like, "I lost my knife, give me yours," or something like that, and I gave her my knife. And next thing I know, a man comes stumbling out of the house, covered in blood, and falls down, and Tex starts stabbing him. And in the background, I see a white figure of a lady in a nightgown, and Patricia was on her, stabbing her.
Linda Kasabian has lived in the dark for 19 years, and people who have been fascinated and frightened by what happened that August night in 1969 have been waiting for her words. She remembers only too well the first time she met Charles Manson.
He was kind of magnetic. There was just something about him that intrigued me, or whatever the words may be, you know, I'm at loss for words.
Manson, this weed of a human being who has shelter, eats 3 meals a day, and protests his innocence in arrogance, talks.
I didn't break the law. I got some friends that killed some people, but my friends have always been killing people. I live in the underworld. My friends have always been in, you know, I mean, that's part of the life I live.
It was a mass murder that former Los Angeles DA Vincent Bugliosi says is the most notoriously known butchery since Jack the Ripper.
I think if you scoured the face of this globe, Steve, you would be hard-pressed to come up with another group of people whose religion, whose credo, was killing. They enjoy killing. As someone who knows Manson better than I, a member of the Manson family, as he said, death is Charlie's trip. Manson spoke constantly of death. He said he'd rather kill a human being than a bird or even a rattlesnake. He said everyone had to die either in their head, the killing of the ego, or out on the streets. The songs he wrote contained frequent references to death. Where did he take his family after these murders? Death Valley. He had a morbid preoccupation with death and murder. And there may be as many as 35 people out there. At the time they were apprehended, Susan Atkins told me that it was their plan to enlarge and start traveling throughout America, and start ripping off families, as she told me, in small American towns. And they already had plans, as you probably know, to murder prominent personalities who, to Charles Manson, symbolized the entertainment industry. Sinatra, Liz Taylor, Steve McQueen, people like that. Their life was murder. Susan Atkins equated stabbing a human being to sexual intercourse, the going in and the out.
This is the house that Sharon Tate called the Love House. It sits on a hillside on secluded Cielo Drive in LA's exclusive Benedict Canyon. Sharon and Roman Polanski sublet the house from record producer Terry Melcher, the son of actress Doris Day. Later, it would be discovered not only that Charles Manson knew Melcher, but he had been previously in the house as well. At the time, however, no one knew what was about to happen on the night of August 9th. In less than 1 hour of horror, the Love House would become the Death House. Like anyone who met Sharon, I was overwhelmed by her fragile freshness. I interviewed her and her husband Roman only 8 months before she was murdered. The next time I saw her, she was being carried in a coffin to a final resting place. The grim memory of covering that story in 1969 haunts me to this day. It began shortly before midnight. 4 of the Manson maniacs drove up secluded Cielo Drive in an old Ford. One of them, Tex Watson, got out and he climbed a telephone pole. He severed the wires. Already it started to sound like a horror movie. Now the 4 of them feared that this gate here was electrified, so they climbed over this embankment and swarmed into the Tate household with commando-like precision and proceeded to rewrite criminal history in blood. Once over the fence, the killers saw headlights. Tex told the girls to hide in the bushes. Stephen Parent, a 19-year-old friend of the house's caretaker, was going home in his car. Parent was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
When the car got right up to us, Tex jumped out, shot the person in the head.
Then Tex broke in a window and opened the front door for the girls to enter. Linda Kasabian, a Manson family member, could not go through with what was about to happen. She waited outside.
It was like, not real. You know, did this really happen? It just didn't seem real. But it was real.
Once inside the house, Charles, Tex Watson, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Susan Atkins discovered Wojtek Frykowski asleep on the living room couch. He awakened startled. He asked, "What time is it?" And then, "Who are you? What do you want?" Watson replied, "I am the devil, here to do the devil's business."
Patricia Krenwinkel from Los Angeles. She was as a child, a bluebird. She sang in the church choir. At one time, she wanted to become a nun. She attended a Jesuit college in Alabama. Her father, an insurance executive. A lot of hostility. Why? I don't know.
She was quiet. She, wasn't really out there. She was kind of quiet. Earthy, more earthier.
Susan Atkins and Patricia